why is it that in a food forest system, we don't need to use any pesticides? So we're going to get right into this, just straight to the point of why it works this way. But first, we got food forests, we got industrial agriculture, and in the middle, we've got organic gardening. We've got industrial organic gardening and real organic gardening. Industrial agriculture has to use pesticides, super toxic pesticides. Organic agriculture, industrial organic, uses less toxic pesticides, and organic agriculture at its best can use no pesticides, even natural organic ones, but often it's just going to use harmless organic ones. But we're going to talk about why a food forest is the best, because it is handling the whole pest issue from a completely different paradigm. Even harmless organic pest interventions, things like BT, neem oil, are not ideal because of the ecology at play. So we're just going to start off by describing what happens in industrial agriculture. So in an industrial agriculture system, say we have a field of corn. The reason we're going to need to use a pesticide is because, say, a pest comes in to eat the corn. So there's the corn, the pest is eating the corn. The pest population grows. Before we can even have ecological balance come into play, before we can have a predator come in and eat the pest that's eating the corn, we have to spray it. So basically the reason that a food forest doesn't need to use pesticides is because as soon as a pest comes into the system, it is immediately put into balance by the predators. In industrial agriculture, there is no habitat for the predators. There is no insectary flowering plants that attract those predators. Because it's just a giant field of corn everywhere, it's really easy for the pest to spread from plant to plant very rapidly. Essentially, in a food forest, you have a lot more biodiversity, so it's going to be a lot slower. The longer it takes for a pest to spread from plant to plant, the quicker or the more efficiently a predator population can come in and put balance into the ecosystem. So in industrial agriculture, the pest spreads extremely rapidly, taking over all the plants. There's no habitat for the predator. And then say you go and use a pesticide to kill that pest. As soon as you do that, any predator of that pest that did exist in the system is going to die off or leave because the food that it has is suddenly gone. So because you spray the pesticide, all the ecological balance that might have been there, even if it was very little, is going to leave the system. Essentially, even organic pesticides, even less harmful pesticides, because of this principle, are going to create dependence on themselves. Every time that you use a pesticide, you have to use a pesticide again. Pesticide use creates pesticide dependence. It doesn't matter if you're over here using the most toxic pesticides or over in organic agriculture using something that is relatively harmless to human health, to other parts of the ecosystem. You want to handle pests by keeping the ecosystem in balance. My face is pretty frozen. It's like 10 degrees out here. But yeah, what do we have in a food forest? In a food forest, spiders, birds, parasitoid wasps, all the predators of pests are going to have the habitat they need to live there year-round, habitat for the winter, flowers to keep them fed with nectar that attract them from distances and keep them coming in, flowers from spring to fall. You're going to have a massive diversity in the crops there. So let's say you have one apple tree, some pest comes in and starts eating apples. It doesn't get to immediately spread to a whole orchard and absolutely explode. As soon as the pest comes in, there's a variety of plants. There's a lot of plants that have really strong smells. Pests operate by smells. So when you have a lot of plants that have these very strong smells, what it's going to do is confuse the pest so it can't find those plants as easily. So essentially, that's how it works. All that we're doing is we're allowing this ecological balance to come into place. I did vegetable farming, which is not food forestry, for 2 years, and I never used any chemicals. Sometimes I would lose a crop to pests. Occasionally it would happen. But overall, because I had a lot of these flowering plants, because I had a very active ecosystem with a lot of pest predators, and I never used a pesticide, the pest populations would always come into balance. And I would see it. 1 week, I would lose a bunch of my leafy greens to a pest. Then the next week, all the greens would grow back healthy and happy because they have healthy soil. The plants are healthy. That's another thing. In unhealthy soil, even if you're using artificial fertilizers to prop up the soil, the plants are not that healthy. So because the plants are not that healthy, they're more vulnerable to pests. So in a food forest, you have healthier plants. They're less vulnerable to pests. So in this gardening system, I would see quickly that population would come into balance. So in a food forest, you're solving the pest problem once and for all. You don't have to worry about some massive thrip infestation, some aphid infestation coming in, because aphids are already part of the system. As soon as the aphids start to grow, predators come in and start eating them, and they go into balance. You have enough habitat and other things that those predators need to support their population growing and coming into balance with the pests. So just like in a natural forest, in a food forest, your populations are going to be in balance. That's why you don't need to use any kind of pesticide. You don't need to worry about pest maintenance. It's effortless, it's low maintenance, it's easy. And yeah, the one thing about this is, especially as systems are getting established, you are going to have some pests. That's okay. People do need to get over the idea of having these perfect apples that not a single apple has a bite taken out of it by any bug. This is totally normal. This is totally fine. You don't want to be eating food that is completely just not eaten by any wildlife whatsoever. You want it to be there to be an occasional apple that has some pests in it. That's just part of the system. If you're eating an apple, or you have a bunch of apples and there's no pest damage whatsoever, that's an indicator that the system is not healthy, the soil is not healthy. It's not an entire ecosystem that's complete, and it's probably not as healthy for you because of that. So that's the video. That just gives a quick picture. My face is freezing. I'm not gonna be able to talk much longer, but this is why you don't need to use pesticides in a food forest. Peace.